Calumet Editions, an eclectic publisher of fiction, nonfiction, and poetry, introduced a new business model nearly a decade ago, in which the publisher and author work as equal partners in a joint venture. Their stable of authors have won numerous and prestigious prizes across literary forms. Where traditional publishers fail to see the value in projects, Calumet cooperates with its authors in realizing a book's potential.
Welcome to Writer's Corner. I'm Rob Jung, pinch hitting today for the inestimable Alan Miller, who is out on a personal mission of his own today. So today we have with us two astounding authors, Cheryl Bailey, who has written her first novel, and Peggy, do you go by all three names?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Peggy Munro Scholberg, who has written a couple of books. Both your books are very similar in that while they are fiction, they really are underpinned by a lot of true life events. So let's start with you, Cheryl. Tell us about your book.
Well, I wrote this novel Poised, so it is fiction, but it's loosely based on a fellowship that I experienced in Kentucky. And it is about a young woman surgeon who has loved her medical career, medical training to date, and then encounters rather surprising chauvinism that she just wasn't expecting, and really, because of the surprise, wasn't entirely sure on how to deal with it. And along the 2-year journey, she meets hilarious patients and hilarious young residents, also medical doctors in training, and discovers the beauty of Kentucky, which is a phenomenal state, and makes deep friendships and finds some inner grit that she had to dig deep to decide if she wanted to graduate or not. It was the path, as many academic hierarchies are. The only way out was through. And so if she wanted to graduate, she had to find a way.
So your background is in, and this is a mouthful, gynecological...
Keep going.
Oncology, yeah.
I'm a gynecologic oncologist. It is a mouthful. And you can never have a bad day if you use the word gynecology in your day. I think that everyone should start the day off with I'll keep the rest of my usual vocabulary to a low roar. But yes, that's what I did. And it's a long training program with residency, fellowship, medical school, college. It's a lot of years of kind of delayed gratification.
I'll see if I can start my day with
start your day
gynecological from now on.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Thank you.
Peggy, tell us about the Girls in a World at War.
I am happy to tell about it. I brought to show you, this is the original story. 660 pages.
Wow.
My mother actually typed it up at about the time I was born. She's been gone for 20 years now. And since I retired, I was able to take the time to go back, scan it in, revise it, shorten it, and publish it out of a publishing house here in Burnsville. My mother served in the Army as a dietitian. At age 16, she actually went to the Berlin Olympics in Germany. It was on a German propaganda tour. And she recalls the Hitler salute, which at that time was the Olympic salute. So that's kind of the backdrop. She was from a very wealthy family in Chicago. In fact, her father was the CEO of a company that redesigned the Chicago River. You know, it changed directions. But anyway, the first boy she ever kissed came home from the war. He was in the hospital. She visited him. He was in a body cast. He would likely never walk again. And he said, if there's anything you can do for those poor devils over there, please do it. Well, the next day she signed up for the Army. By then she had graduated as a dietitian from Iowa State. And she decided, I brought my little can of Spam here. By God, she was going to make Spam taste good. That was really her goal in joining the Army. So she joins, and again, rich little girl, doesn't exactly fit in with all the drinking and partying that went on. She was pretty straight-laced, but she grew up in a hurry. She was transferred overseas. She served overseas in France. At their hospital, they would serve some of the first survivors of the Dachau concentration camp, and they would feed them. They were next to the 82nd Airborne, the famed 82nd Airborne. There's a lot of stories about that. And eventually, she does meet up with my father, who had been serving over in England. That's her story. She claims it to be fiction, but I've heard her tell people these stories all my life. I know these stories to be true, but I also know she did change some names to protect the innocent.
Including that of your father.
Yes. She called him Jim in there. His name was actually James Jackson Rutherford Monroe. And he was a tennis player. He was a champion tennis player. In fact, about the only thing I know about my father and his military career, he was there for 4.5 years. I have a small little clipping from a newspaper, and he had won the tennis championship in the area in England. And my mother used to say, your father, his contribution to the war? Why, they would tote him all over Europe playing tennis for Army-Navy games. That's his contribution. So I never really heard. He was at an Air Force base, but he was part of headquarters staff. He had been trained as a chemical warfare specialist, but since there wasn't chemical warfare in World War II, that's not what he did. Unfortunately, when I was about 7, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, so I never got to see him play tennis, and I think that might have been part of why he was a little bit quiet about the war.
So you shrunk this book from 600 and some pages that your mother wrote to roughly 400 pages in Girls
Yes.
in a World at War.
Yes.
How much of the writing is your own and how much of it is your mother's?
Well, I do get asked that a lot. I'm a pharmacist by training. I don't know much about writing. I did take several courses, and I can do a research project. I knew that. What I did was I took the story, and it was too long, and she had a lot of very tedious descriptions. I took that out. I took out a couple of chapters. I took out a couple of characters. The thing that I maintained the most was she had really good dialogue of how people talked to each other at that time. And I thought it was really fun to hear how they talked and what they had to say. So that's the part I kept the most in. And again, the places that she went and the things that she did, I kept in there. So it's her story and my father's story as well.
Okay. Cheryl, that's a great segue, how people talked, because your book is set in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And your character is enthralled by the Southern drawl.
Mm-hmm.
Was that your personal experience?
It was my personal experience, and in writing a dialect, we had a lot of discussions. I'd taken the Loft's year-long novel writing course, and so I had the privilege of having really good friends now and budding authors all workshopping all of our scenes. And so we had a lot of discussions about how to portray a dialect without, my main goal was not to make my beloved patients and friends in Kentucky sound ignorant. It was never from ignorance that dialects and language comes about. It's just habit and family traditions, and it was beautiful and lyrical and sometimes just hilarious. I mean, the phrases were hilarious. So yeah, there was a lot of talk about craft in constructing that dialect. And I had just come from 4 years in Massachusetts, Western Massachusetts, which has its own hilarious and strong, and it's just completely different from Midwest dialects.
Harvard, yeah.
Yes, Harvard, yeah. And I had a nurse when I first started had been in medical school at the University of Minnesota, and she told me, Dr. Bailey, can the patient have the custard? And I looked at her and I thought, I know you're speaking English. I just don't know what the hell you just said. And she wanted to know if the patient could have pudding, and custard was pudding, and yeah.
Funny.
So yeah, I love the sound of the lyrical phrases in Kentucky language. It's beautiful.
You did the class you took at the Loft. You obviously absorbed very well, because the tendency, I think, for us Northerners, when somebody portrays someone with a Southern drawl, is to think stupid.
Right.
You did a marvelous job.
Thank you.
Of completely disarming that whole idea.
Thank you.
And pointing out the lyrical nature of the accent, if you will. We'd call it an accent. They'd say we have an accent. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's whatever the dialect is.
Exactly.
One other thing, though, that oncology, is really serious stuff. And you found a way to make it humorous. How did that come about? When did you develop your sense of humor?
Yeah, my phrase for blurbing the book is cancer care isn't funny, but people are. And I had the opportunity to do a thing that KFAI radio had in town. I don't know if you know their stuff, but they had a thing called the Wave Project. And I had patients come in to tell me, I specifically asked them to come to the radio studio to talk about the funny experiences they'd had during chemo. Oh. And I'm telling you, it is just a joy to have something else to talk about when you have a cancer diagnosis that isn't just despair and neuropathy and low counts. It was like a weight got lifted off everyone's shoulders that we could kind of giggle about some of the things that happen. And I've always thought that human beings are, if allowed to be funny and if allowed to say the things they really want to say, things can bubble up that are surprising and kind of the human experience.
I thought you
interesting.
Go ahead.
Or I can comment. I had several beta readers take a look at the book, and many of them wanted to correct all sorts of things that people would say. And I said, no, that's how they talked back then. And I really had to struggle with a lot of people because that does show what's happening more than anything else, it seems. Right?
Your book is very appropriate for the time. There's I couldn't help but pick up on this. I have to take these off so I can read. Sorry about that. Captain Keene sat with one arm dangling over the back of the chair, his long legs crossed. He peered understandingly through his steel-rimmed glasses. None from your fiancé? He's talking about mail. And he says, well, most of our mail hasn't come through yet. Mm-hmm. And then she asks, Kathy, your character.
Yep, the character.
Asks a question about, will she get more tomorrow? And he says, we always expect our mail tomorrow. Have you seen the movie 688? 688?
Yes.
Which I thought made the timing of your book so serendipitous.
Well, they sure relied on the mail. I mean, that's a big thing. And then, that movie is wildly popular. Yeah. In fact, I'll show you a book later that has a chapter on it. But they relied on the mail. And of course, she had a broken heart and she expected mail every day. But it didn't come in. Oh, from her married man boyfriend. What a surprise. Oh my gosh, she was quite innocent, let me tell you.
Well, it is sort of a coming out story in a sense, because your character was woefully naive.
She was.
It made me think of Private Benjamin, and when Goldie Hawn said, where are the condos? After she got drafted or volunteered for the Army. Yeah. It was hilarious in that sense. This is not your first book.
This is my first and last, likely.
Oh, I thought you had written an earlier book.
No, this is it. This is it. Yeah.
So you're not going to write another one?
Well,
your mother doesn't have another manuscript part?
Yeah, well, actually, she does. After the war, she went on to help with Head Start. And her real mission in life was to help young mothers feed their family. That was absolutely. She also did a lot of research, and she did write another book on brain energy and brain energy deficits. And she could really type like you can't believe. She published a lot of things. I won't be publishing that. So, but I have been asked on a number of occasions to speak at various World War II events. So I've talked on other topics, not just this. But you're right, this is Women's History Month. And so I do have a number of presentations coming up about this that especially 90-year-old women love to hear about it. And actually the men like it too. So it's there's a lot of humor in the book and a lot of interesting situations. There are very few women that signed up in the Army, and fewer yet that actually typed it up. So I was lucky to have been exposed to this, to know this story, and know what a delightful story my mother could tell.
Did she ever try to get it published?
She did, but that thing weighed a ton, and she sent it off to a number of publishing companies, and I think Honestly, it was just too long. And then don't forget, at the time that I was born, people were talking about the war. They really didn't want to hear about it. And so it's been very popular lately, I mean, in the last 5 or 10 years, but it certainly wasn't at that time. She was often asked to speak, and she was often to tell stories, and she did very well at that. Okay. But her real love was food and nutrition.
Food and nutrition. Aren't you a
coach?
Or am I getting this?
I don't have any food and nutrition, but I ate a lot of pimento cheese in Kentucky, and and I do have a story in the book that was true. When my mom came to visit, and we went to what was supposed to be the best restaurant in town, and they had something on the menu that sounded good, and I said, "What are the lamb fries?" And the waitress said, "Oh, Emmer lamb testicles, and you get 6 with the." So she proceeded to tell me how many was the medium and the large, and now the phrase would have been, "You had me at testicles." So maybe there's another way to start your day, a different vocabulary. Yeah. So I said I passed on that, but yeah, there were some interesting food choices.
There are some really good scenes in your book that I have to believe you were. These were stories that you lived. The one that I thought of first is fairly early on in your book, your first day, and you catch your high heel in the elevator slot and can't get out. Was that a true event?
Yeah, my first line of the book that stayed for all the years that I've been fooling around trying to write it, always stayed with it. And the first line is, "Pretty shoes would do her in." And I wore my one good set of shoes. I have huge feet. I'm a tall woman. Back in the day, they didn't make very many shoes that were dress shoes. And I wore them on my first day because I thought there'd be orientation and I'd be escorted around. Well, I don't know what I was thinking. I was in the OR with 2 hours of hitting the hospital and operating alone. And so I got blisters from my good shoes, but I didn't actually fall in the elevator, but I did have blisters, and I did wobble out at 8 or 9 o'clock at night that night thinking, what exactly was I thinking that I wouldn't be in the
I remember reading that, and then you couldn't wait to take off your pantyhose, right? So we think history, right? And then in this book, there's a part where they take off a lady's girdle. Mm-hmm. So what will happen in another 50 years that we all laugh at, right?
Probably the piercings. That's one thing that I noticed as a surgeon, that, I could hear my pre-op nurses kind of yelling in the good ear of my 90-year-old patient, "Do you have any tattoos?" So no, she didn't. But at some point, probably
that will be.
The 80-year-olds probably do have tattoos and do have piercings that maybe aren't exactly visible. So
interesting.
So there will be body things that have changed.
I was at the Mayo Clinic at a store that they sell CPAP machine supplies, and the gentleman that was selling me a face mask says, "Why are you here?" I said, "I'm here with a friend who's getting a checkup after a knee replacement." And the guy said, "Can you imagine 100 years or 200 years from now when the archaeologists dig through our cemeteries and find all these nylon parts in our bodies?" And they say, "What kind of creatures were they?" So exactly. Another scene from your book that I found particularly amusing was a church scene that you had
with the Methodists.
With the Methodists, yes, a Christmas.
Different book. Yeah, it was Easter.
Book. Yep, there we go. Easter, that's right.
If I can channel Peggy, that was a true story that my mom told me when she came to visit me in Kentucky that I didn't remember. She said, you don't remember the Easter?
Really?
And I said, no. So I'd had a patient who I had asked if we could go because my mom was visiting. She was a strong cradle Episcopalian, we call it, and she wanted to go to service, Easter service. And so I got the day off, and I went to my patient's church, and she had told me when she was admitted for her chemo, "Oh, you've got to see it, Dr. Bailey. We do it up, and the pastor it will be fabulous." And that's not how she said it, but that's what I heard. And when we came to the church, there was completely nothing. There were people in the pews and nothing. There wasn't a flower. There wasn't a cross. There was nothing. And at 10:30, when the service started, we tucked in with my patient and her little grandson, and a woman came flying up the altar saying, "Have you heard? Have you heard? he is risen. And all, pardon me, hell broke loose, and all the men brought in the lilies and the ferns, and the choir came in, and the brass trumpet went, and it was just triumph. And I had no recollection of that at all. And that was from my beloved mom, your mom, reminding me of what had happened those years ago. So, yeah, thank you for drawing attention to that.
You painted such a beautiful word picture of that. And I have to ask both of you, in light of this, have you ever heard the song that, remember Ray Stevens? He did Guitar Zan and all the goofy songs back in the, maybe it's before both of your times. Anyway, he had a song called The Mississippi Squirrel Revival about a squirrel that got loose in the church. And Pascagoula, Mississippi. And this reminded me of the song. Anyway, so be it. So where can people get your books?
Well, anywhere books are sold. I've got that one down. But also, it's available as an audiobook, which is a bit of a surprise.
Great.
My publisher offered me, she had, a small number of slots, and she said that they could do it. And it was the next day it was done on audio. And it's only $6.99 on audio. I couldn't believe it. It's artificial intelligence. They call it a virtual voice. And I can't help but think, Mother, things have changed just a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's really quite good. I was really surprised. I thought it would sound like a computer voice, but it doesn't. It's very good. There's a few things it does get wrong. As an example, instead of a Polish officer, it would be a Polish officer. So there's a few things that are a little quirky, but I've had some friends listen to it. And since I listen to a lot of books, I was particularly glad. Also, some of these older women that are interested, they can't read anymore. And so they have trouble with it. And it's fairly big print, but audio is certainly a great option. So
Good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And where can we find your book?
That's a good line, Peggy. Anywhere books are sold.
But
You can definitely go to Amazon and buy it on Amazon, but you can go to all of our independent booksellers. Will always be able to get these books for you. I am extremely proud of the fact that I saw a copy of Poised at half-price books in Highland Park, and I said, I've made it. Someone finally read it, and they already turned it back to get their, 60 cents back. It's at Barnes & Noble on a table. I was so ecstatic, and the people having their little coffee in the cafeteria or the little coffee shop there saw me, and finally I said, yes, we can tell. And if you don't mind, we're just trying to have a conversation.
So welcome to the local authors table at the local Barnes.
Very exciting. It's exciting to see your book in the wild.
It is.
Oh, it is. I also got word that it's going to be held at the Minnesota History Center and the Military Museum of Minnesota. So I'm really excited about that because they have their own publishing company, but it's local author. People like to support local authors is what I found.
I have a friend who said you cannot swing a dead cat by the tail without hitting the writer in Minnesota.
Oh, really?
For some reason, we are prolific with people who love to write, and I attribute it to the fact that Minnesota Nice prevents us from saying and doing things in person, but we can put them down in our books and tell people off and show them if you're a Mr. Writer.
Well, we've got good bookstores, too, that really support authors. They care about the people who write, and I've found that all of the people in my writing group are unbelievably supportive. We're all writing completely different things. No one feels in competition, and they've been generous with their time. And so that's the key. Tell people to buy people's books and support local authors, and hopefully they'll enjoy the books. Sure.
Oh, we always hope so.
Sure.
So what's next? You're not going to write another book. You said,
I'm pretty busy going on these presentations. I'm going to stay with that for a while. Okay. Although, being that I'm a pharmacist, I'm a little bit interested in drug use during World War II. Certainly amphetamines, morphine, plasma, all sorts of things. Penicillin came out. And I'd like to know a little bit more about that. And I think maybe some fortunes have been made.
I think one of the things that was really interesting in your book was the fact that you introduce penicillin as almost like a first-time use of it when your character gets meningitis while in France.
Well, it hadn't really been out very long at the time that she was ill, and it did save her life. And the doctor did say she was the first to be treated for spinal meningitis. And so she just took that. But it was only available to the military and only available to the military overseas at the time. And I believe it was only on injection too. So the tablet form didn't come out for a while. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. I think it was Pfizer that first produced it. So I'd like to know a little bit more about that.
So how can people get in touch with you if they want to talk to you or even see your book? Or do you have websites, or do you have an email you want to share? Or
I have a website that I don't even know how to get in and alter anymore. But I have a website, and you can certainly email me, and you can contact Calumet Editions. They can always get in touch with me.
I meant to mention that.
Yeah.
Actually, Poised is published by our sponsor, Calumet Editions.
Yeah.
So yay for that.
Yeah.
And Anne.
Okay, I will be speaking at the Minnesota History Center, the Harold C. Deutsch World War II Roundtable next month with the author of this, which includes the story about the 6888. This is a 2-star general that's coming to speak. She's the featured speaker that night. I'm the local interest. So that's exciting. And then also the next month, they're going to have Lucky Luckadoo is his name. He's about 103 years old now. They're going to make a special event for him at the Minnesota History Center. So this is your chance to meet a real live veteran. You won't have many chances after this.
Okay, so where is the World War II or
the History Roundtable?
Yeah.
It's at the Minnesota History Center, downtown St. Paul. And it's if you look up World War II Roundtable St. Paul, you'll find it. And there's a schedule of events. They've got a lot of interesting things going on. Thank you.
Okay. So we've got 2 minutes left to go. Is there any message that you would like to give to a budding writer who has, you've both written your first books, really? What would you tell them as they're about to say, wow, I've got this great idea and I want to write a book? What do you think? You just went through this.
I tell people to do it because it's very overwhelming to think that it could even be done. And we've got places like The Loft. You've got all sorts of other authors. You really do spit and it lands on someone who's written something. So I say use your community resources and go for it, because you have nothing to lose. And if you've got a book that never got published in your house, at least you got that done. There is a real triumph to writing the end. There really is. It's a fabulous feeling. And what in the world do you have to lose? So I say go for it and find people who also like to write. Every book club I speak at, there's one thing I've asked them is, who's got a book in them? And everyone they've all got a story. We've all got stories to tell. Mm-hmm. And if you don't feel like you're a writer, see if you can find someone who is, because look at this. You've been able to make this creation from someone else's words. That's just a fabulous thing. It's really miraculous every time you get that book done. And it's a great deal of fun.
Peggy, you've got about 10 seconds. What would you tell?
Never thought I could do it, I'll tell you that. But it was really fun to learn about and actually produce it. I can't believe I did it. But it is quite a sense of accomplishment, I must add.
Congratulations to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you both for being on Writer's Corner this evening. I hope you've enjoyed the experience. Next month, Alan will be back with his guest authors, Jeffrey Burton and Andrea Gelatz. Jeffrey's from Golden Valley. You're from Golden? No.
I'm from St. Apple Valley.
Apple Valley. You're from Apple Valley. Jeff's from Apple Valley. I'm from Apple Valley.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's in the water there, I think. So good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.